Oh, another beautiful original piece of music by me.
Yet another
It's amazing.
fantastic piece of
Hi,
music.
I am in fact Tim McLoone. This is the Tim McLoone Radio Show with my good friend and co-host Amy Broza. Hello,
Indeed.
Amy. Aren't we having a good time? This is our
Fabulous.
debut show right here on 970 AM. The Answer will be with you every Sunday morning from 10 to 12. We hope you'll start your day with us, and for those of you who get up earlier than I do, you'll complete your day. I have no idea what time these people get up, but we have a wonderful guest coming up for you right now. I think this is one of the most interesting people. And you know, when you talk about history as a subject, when we were all students, I guess, oh, history, oh, it's so boring. In so many ways, I can't think of anything more interesting than history. Although, I don't know, maybe this professor will break me of that thought, but you never know. But I do know because he's been our guest twice before. Paul is an associate professor of history at Brookdale Community College right here down the Jersey Shore in nearby Lincroft, and the founder and former director of the Brookdale Center for World War II Studies and Conflict Resolution. You've got to do more teaching of conflict resolution. I'll tell you, the world's coming crazy right now. But he's
Tim,
a graduate. He's a graduate of
coming.
Temple University and the United States Army War College. What a basketball team those guys had. You remember that team?
Yeah, their fight song
What
was
a team!
fabulous.
Yeah. He authored and edited in 2009 Witnessing History, the Eisenhower Photographs, a publication featuring all the photographs of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, one of my dad's favorites, taken by his personal wartime photographer, Al Messerlin. But what we're going to speak about today, although actually I want to get to this, he authored the book, The Longest Walk, which relates the amazing story of the United States 29th Infantry Division, which assaulted Omaha Beach on, everyone remembers D-Day, June 6, 1944, and its harrowing 40-day task thereafter. He's also the director of the New Jersey-based World War II Era Studies Institute, dedicated to furthering knowledge about the World War II era and its impact on history. And maybe most revelatory about you as Mr. Zigo is a 30-year veteran of the United States Army, retiring with the rank of colonel. Welcome, please, Paul Zigo.
Tim, thank you.
Paul.
How are you doing, Tim?
I didn't know all that stuff about you. The colonel part scares me because I was in the National Guard, and I was arguably the worst soldier in the history of the United States military. I was horrible. I was a truck mechanic, if you can imagine that, in the National Guard. And I always used to say about my work as a truck mechanic, somebody be driving a deuce and a half over a mountain or something, and they'd go, "What the heck's wrong with these brakes?" It's like, did Tim McLoone work on your truck?
I'm sure.
That's
Tim, a person like you is the basis for the National Guard. And thank you. Thank you for your years of service.
Well, I don't
and
know.
I really do mean that. Thank you.
I was so bad, though, when people say, "Could all the veterans in the room please stand up?" I'm looking like, should I stand?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I did get out honorably and a little early, which should tell you something, too. But at any rate, Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
You've given us some wonderfully invigorating stories, things to think about in the past. We're not going to go back to the part about where J. Edgar Hoover actually was behind the JFK killing, but
Ixnay.
we're gonna
Tim,
move
the
right
interesting
by
thing
that.
is you're still here, I'm still here, and the reason being because they know what we know.
Oh.
So therefore, I'm glad we had that show.
Well, one of the things I said to you just before we came on the air was that I did not remember or maybe even know that operation on D-Day was known as Operation Overlord.
Right.
We all remember it just as D-Day. So tell us about the lead up to that.
Tim, leading up to Operation Overlord, there were 18 months of planning. It started in January of 1943. It wasn't completed until June of 1944.
Now, why would it have taken so long?
Why? Because
we don't
of
think
the
of warfare
extensive
that way, you know?
nature of this amphibious operation. It was the largest amphibious operation in World War II. In fact, the largest amphibious operation ever. It involved over 130,000 men and women. It involved over 4,100 ships of all types. And
Now,
it
had they
took
even
time.
invented yet the LSATs?
Yes, they did.
I mean, was that part of the delay? Was that making these amphibious vehicles that
Well,
were?
during the course of the planning, the demand went out for the development of this landing craft.
Right.
And it took that period of time to produce that many for that operation. And it all came together in June of 1944. And what you had unfold over a space of, well, approximately 24 hours was
Yeah.
the following. Some 90,000 men involved in an invasion that took place over a 50-mile front. They crossed 5 major beaches. They were all code named, and the code names many people know. they being Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. And when they came across those beaches,
And this was all in France, of course.
this is all
Normandy.
in France, right, the Normandy coast. In fact,
And why was that where they landed?
reason being because the Allies knew via an intercept of German enciphers,
Communications, whatever.
communications.
Yeah.
They knew the Germans expected the Allies to invade Europe and possibly northern France. And the Germans prepared for an invasion of northern France with this eventuality. That's where their troops are located. Where in particular? In the Pas-de-Calais area of northern France, which is just about 25 miles across the English Channel from Great Britain.
But it was north of Normandy.
Right. And
Okay.
the Allies knew that that's where the Germans had concentrated their
How
forces.
do you keep a secret, though, for 18 months? I can't
They
imagine.
managed to do so by, in essence, allowing the Germans to fly over the area where they were concentrating this force, when in reality what you saw on the ground were rubber units, rubber equipment.
Really?
And in essence, none of it was real. But it deceived the Germans for so many months, and they truly believed this is where the Allies were coming, across the English Channel in the Pas-de-Calais area. They did not expect the invasion in the Normandy area.
Wow. I think for
50-mile
younger
front.
people that maybe what they know about D-Day now came from Saving Private Ryan.
In
watching
essence,
that,
yes.
Watching that movie. How true to the experience do you think that
The
was?
first 20 minutes, Tim, absolutely reflective of what happened in one particular area of the total invasion.
Yeah.
And that was Omaha Beach and a subsector known as Dog White. And when the 29th Infantry Division came across that area, in particular the 116th Regiment, it was wiped out. And the reason being, because as they crossed that beach, what the Allies expected was no resistance whatsoever, or minor resistance. They didn't detect that a week beforehand, an experienced German division had been stationed in that very region. And this Omaha Beach area consisted of 5 miles of beach overlooked by 100-foot bluffs. On the top of those 100-foot bluffs was this experienced German division that was positioned there to do one thing, and that was practice anti-invasion maneuvers. On June 6th, 1944, they didn't have to practice anymore. And when the 116th Regiment sent its units across that beach, 90% of those units were wiped out. And it's all reflected, quite frankly, very, very well in that opening segment of Saving
Which was so
Private
hard to
Ryan.
watch. I mean, it was
Yes.
just very, because, you know, I grew up in the era of watching John Wayne and other World War II movies that
Romanticized.
very romantic, and it was Bang Bang You're Dead. Nothing hurt. It just didn't give you a true portrayal, and all
Right.
you got from that first segment of that was fear. That's what you got was fear.
Yes.
And you watch like some of the people driving the landing crafts who say, "I'm not going any closer. I'm dropping the ramp right now. Get out." And those soldiers would go out and they drown because the weight of
Right.
their stuff. They just wouldn't. I mean, you don't mean to criticize. I can't imagine what I would have done. I would have found a way not to be there. But to think of just that fear of bullet that you just know what's going on. They said about that one of the things I read that the Germans actually didn't have enough bullets. It was so easy to wipe out those groups that they almost,
Tim, in
they
the
could have
end,
just kept going.
that unit
That
overlooking
one section.
Omaha Beach, yes.
Was it Gold that didn't have the resistance?
That's right. The other
Yeah.
beaches did not have the resistance that Omaha Beach had.
Yeah.
In fact, let me put it this way. Because of what happened at Omaha Beach, this invasion nearly failed. Nearly failed. And the reason why it did succeed after all said and done, because the invasion on Omaha Beach was stalled a good 6-7 hours because of the casualties and the deaths incurred. It was stalled on that beach for a good 6 or 7 hours. What comes about is the following. It's the remnants. It's those who were talked about in a prior radio show just a moment ago.
Yeah.
The individual soldiers who realizing that either they got off that beach and moved to survive or they were going to die on that beach. what they decided to do, truly, people like yourself, decided to get up, move off the beach, and as opposed to attacking the Germans where they had their defensive, what the troops did was climb up these 100-foot bluffs where the Germans did not expect them to appear. And as groups, what they started to do was attack the Germans from where the Germans did not expect them to come, from their flanks and from their rears. And with this being the case, it dislodged all the German defenses and enabled the Allies eventually to cross off those beaches and go up the exits. However, 7-8 hours after the invasion. But thank God for the remnants. Thank God for the ordinary soldier, people who we paid tribute to a few moments ago.
Yeah.
Thank God for them, because it's them that enabled the Allies to succeed during the Normandy invasion.
It's an
It's the
incredible,
remnants.
incredible thing. And when they talk about
It
the
is.
greatest generation, you know, you kindly referenced me. Believe me, I just have no feeling that I could have done something like that. I don't know how these people did it. It's, you know, true American heroes. And, you know, we were at Citi Field at a Met game a week ago, and they introduced a Bronze Star recipient, and I was so happy to see the reaction he got. Of course, the Mets played terribly, but it was such a great, he got the biggest reaction of the day. It didn't take much with the
And
Mets not
rightfully
helping.
so.
But it was a wonderful thing to see that audience go crazy, 30,000 people saluting this man for his efforts. And I thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh,
you know,
Tim,
you always
thank you.
bring interesting
And by the
material
way,
with you, and I hope you'll
I
return
do
again
want to
soon.
leave a book with you, and I want to let you know what the inscription says. It says, "To Tim, whose enthusiasm for history motivates others to learn." Paul Zigo.
Wow. Paul, you are the best. Thanks.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much. We'll be back in a little while. Paul Zigo.